Hey, here we are at your Guru Market Part 10, creating your dream clients. So, in this mission, we are focusing on creating your dream client filters. So, whereas in previous missions, we have been getting to kind of the dream client description, right? So, I work with people who are struggling with because and so on and so forth. Now we're going to start looking at your dream client filters to make sure that actually only the people who are most qualified and most ready and most able to get the most from working with us are the people that actually get through to having the conversations about being coaching clients. Okay, so one way to look at this is what I've been focusing on for years, is to have the least number of unqualified conversations possible. Okay, what that means is a complete opposition to the way many people are trying to attract their clients. They're kind of spray and pray, where they put lots and lots of stuff out, and they're over the moon because they get 100 people fill out their application forms to work with them, and then they have to book time out their diaries and sit on calls with people who kind of take up hours and hours of their life, or no shows, and then only to find that the person's not really that good a fit. Okay, I want to help you to avoid all of that by saying, well, hold on, like the people that get to have conversations with me are very, very, very qualified right from the outset. Okay, and the only way for them to know that they're really qualified is for them to be really, really clear on what the qualifications themselves are. So there may be some resonance with, I help people who are struggling with because, and they might see aspects of themselves in that and go, oh, wow, that's me. But there are other aspects that become really important. And the good news is you've already created many of these excuse me, in by going through the client characteristics and tendencies and qualities and so on and so forth. You've already created a lot of these parameters anyway, so you could call this tidying up, and we're just going to kind of rejig it into another set of statements that can be really, really powerful for us. So by this point, we know a lot about the people we're going to be working with. Again, characteristics, tendencies, qualities, dreams, desires, fears, frustrations, you name it. We've got a lot of information about these people. So now it's time to help them to understand a little bit more about themselves and determine if they're going to be a good fit to work with us. Right? In other words, we're going to kind of turn the mirror on them, so that as they read or hear or come across information from us about who it is we work with and how we get the results we get, they can say, yes, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me, right? And it's kind of, think of it like a checklist where they can say, yes, I really feel good about advancing the intimacy here. And we'll speak about that a bit more in the marketing section, but advancing intimacy becomes a really important part of this whole process. So yeah, think of these as filters, and the aim is to leave absolutely no doubt as to what you're about, what working with you will be like, and perhaps more importantly, what it won't be like. So it's similar to the I help people who are struggling because exercise, and it's a sentence stemming process to begin with. Or at least this first exercise is where there are two missions within this mission. So part one is to create this sentence stemming exercise that will lead to a statement that's very, very similar to your I help who are struggling with. Okay, that makes your approach clear. So the first question is, I'm not like other coaches you may have heard of because. What would be your answer to that? Like, just to be really clear, we're not making, it is a comparison, but we're not making I'm so much better than them or whatever it happens to be, right? You were simply stating a fact that you're not like many of them. So, this is where you can focus not only on the kind of result that you get and how you get that result, but you might also bring in elements of your magic and showing up words, right? So, for example, I might say, I'm not like other coaches you may have heard of because my focus is on simplicity and systems and kind of bringing about a highly individualized approach to creating your dream life by attracting your dream clients. Okay, so I'm focusing on the fact that you're not being handed a blueprint. For example, other coaches want to give you a blueprint. I'm not like that. I'm not going to do that. Other coaches may kind of be speaking to you about these big, long-ass, complex funnels and all that kind of stuff. I'm about simplicity, right? I don't want to kind of flavor the pot too much here, so I want to make sure that I give you enough examples for you to kind of think about how you want to go with it, but I don't want it to be kind of like you end up with a reiteration of my stuff, right? So hopefully that makes sense. I'm absolutely committed to. So another way of looking at it is like you're striving at all times to deliver something, right? I'm absolutely committed to. I'm absolutely committed to helping you to create a highly personalized and individualized approach to creating your dream life. a unique system that's created by you and fits into the realities of your life, rather than kind of a fantasy system that kind of, I've devised for myself, but the kind of you can't see really how it fits and all the rest of it. So what are you going to be absolutely committed to? And again, sentence stems. So you're going to move a lot of coal, right, to find your diamond. So say, give yourself plenty of examples of what you're really committed to. I absolutely refuse to. So what is it that you absolutely refuse to as part of your process? So I absolutely refuse to be involved in, particularly in these programs, in terms of things like blueprints and instruction and accountability and hustle hard work. I have people all the time that come to me and say, yeah, what I really need is some accountability, and I really just need someone to kind of hold me accountable to these things. And look, on the one hand, I get it. I talk about commitment all the time, and people may see commitment as synonymous with accountability. I simply don't. Okay, I'm happy to remind you that you made a commitment, but I'm not going to hold your feet to the fire. I'm not going to make you a bad person. I'm not going to give you shit just to kind of G you up or anything like that. I'm just going to tell the truth. Like, hey, you said this. You don't seem to be doing that. That's fine, because you're a grown up. You get to choose for yourself, but just remember, you've paid for this. So are you happy with how things are going? For me, that feels like a very different conversation to one of accountability. But I absolutely refuse to be involved in giving you hard and fast blueprints. So as you've seen, like throughout GuRu, I provide the frameworks through the principles, but what I don't do is provide all the answers. I don't say, so here's what you have to do. And in fact, at times that may be really, really frustrating for people who are used to and have been seeking answers, right? Like, please just tell me what to do. Well, actually, that's not what I work on. And a big part of the reason I don't work that way is quite simply because all the answers that you are absolutely given without having to seek, according to my experience at least, are the first ones that you discard when you get in doubt. Eventually down the road you go, yeah, I didn't really pick that part. It just sounded cool when Dak said it, so I embraced that at the time, but it's not really me. And that's why I'm very careful as we go through the GuRu project, that when I do add my embellishments or my perspective on top of what you've done, it really is just on top of what you've done. I'm saying, wow, you've done really, really well with that. You could do a bit more clarity here. I'm not saying that you should say it this way, but what I am saying is, if I were saying it, I'd probably say it like this. Again, that's really different. So what do you absolutely refuse to do for your clients and for the people that you work with? You won't enjoy working with me if. So why wouldn't they enjoy working with you? So, again, I gave part of the details in the striving to deliver and the absolute reviews, right? You won't enjoy working with me if you're seeking instruction, if you're seeking accountability, if you're looking for immediate results. In fact, one of the very first things I do is I slam the brakes on all of the things that you're doing that aren't working at the moment, and I slow you down so that you can rebuild from the ground up. So if you're the kind of person who is joining a program and you're looking to see immediate results, you won't enjoy working with me. Right? Now, I do believe that the ongoing and the cumulative results over time are going to be so much better than that other approach. But you won't, you may not even get to that point if you're so frustrated that you go, damn, I've been in this program for 10 weeks now and I still haven't, gotten new clients, and I still haven't made any money and all the rest of it. Well, again, it's by design, right? The program has been designed this way. So if you're looking for the immediate quick wins, you may not enjoy working with me, or particularly in this program of the GuRu. Now, I've got other programs like the Light, where for GuRu graduates and alumni, they already have all this background stuff. So every month we focus on, how can we get the wins for this month? That's a very different program. But certainly, if you were starting out your relationship with me, you probably wouldn't enjoy working with me if you were all about speed and accountability and being handed blueprints. Okay, but you'll probably enjoy working with me if. So you'll probably enjoy working with me if you're looking for a highly personalized way of creating your dream life and your business in a way that brings about long-lasting results, and in a way that you will enjoy the process and program. Like, I'm not looking for, the hustle people. I'm not looking for the people who are trying to justify and rationalize why they need to work harder and why I need to be the one with a whip in my hand to crack that whip and get them working harder. I'm not looking for that. But you'll probably enjoy working with me if, for you, kind of the building of your dream life and the building of your dream business is supposed to be or at least in your mental framework, is, you desire it to be enjoyable. You'll probably enjoy working with me because the start of our relationship together will be slow, but you'll be proud of and have built kind of things that you feel really attached to, really powerful around, and that you can't wait to speak to people about. Okay. The people who've enjoyed working with me tend to be, okay? The people who've enjoyed working with me or gotten the most out of working with me tend to be. So what do they tend to be? So if I can give you good examples here, my people tend to be kind of into self-development. So this is where a lot of the quality stuff come in again, right? Self-development. They often have a good sense of humor. They're open. They're definitely committed, and they see the value of commitment. They generally tend to be passionate and purposeful people, but they are profound in many respects, in that they may have a very spiritual aspect to them, not necessarily overtly religious, although sometimes they are, but they also kind of have a high degree of freedom and autonomy from their religions as well, in that they're not going to make every decision that they make with me and working with me through the program through the framework of a religion. Okay, so spirituality versus religion. These are some of the qualities of the people that generally tend to be the ones that really enjoy working with me. You can expect to feel, and you can divide this into two parts. You can expect to feel, going as a result of having worked with me, clarity, focus, kind of hopefulness, happiness, freedom, and all that kind of stuff. But you could also say, you can also expect to feel during our program the turbulence and turmoil, aspects of the real light coming in and then the real darkness coming. Just as I've explained to you around GuRu, and that it's by design. Okay, you can expect to feel kind of great deal of clarity and then a great deal of confusion and frustration, because every step of the way, just as you gain your certainty, I'm going to test that certainty against real world factors and kind of ask you to bring the dark and bring you, kind of break the model that you're building, right? So again, it's a descriptive aspect. I'm strict about who I work with because, and this is the part where it stops you from being a dick. Okay, so instead of sounding arrogant and conceited and like, oh my, nose in the air, I only work with people who, you now get to explain why you're so strict about this. I'm strict about who I work with because I absolutely adore the work that I do as a coach. It's, like I say, it's the work I feel I've been put here to do, and it's important to me that I enjoy every moment of it. It's also important to me that the people that invest their time, effort, energy, and of course money to come and work with me have a really positive experience, and one that they really believe is going to bring them the results that they most desire. Okay, what I found is that if I let slip on the standards and the selection and the prerequisites of clients coming on board to work with me, is that I create a harder and less enjoyable time for myself, and a harder and less enjoyable time for the people that work with me. And as a result, very often they don't get the results that I'm promising are possible for them. Okay, so be really, really clear about why you're strict about working with those people. And then moving on to part 2. Okay, so part 2 of the mission are your dream client prerequisites. Okay, your dream client prerequisites. So these bring together not only the qualities and characteristics, but the aspects of what I call aspects of readiness that are important to begin working with you. Again, I believe that the conversations with clients really should start from the point where they are ready, like they're already qualified to work with you. And it's been my belief for the longest time. It's not always been my belief, but it's been my belief for the longest time that kind of the people that get my time to talk about coaching with me, and whether that be a strategy call or whatever, are the people who are showing all the signs of being ready, right? They're qualified to work with me. Think about it, like what's the point of having conversations with thousands of people per year, and finding out that kind of only a very, very, very small number of them are going to be kind of the kind of people who are fit to work with you? You may as well broadcast who they are and who they're not in advance. So how do you know a client is ready for you and your program? What is it that kind of needs to happen? So some of the things that need to happen, kind of for a client to be ready for my program, they're basic things, right? They have the problem that I solve. They are resonant with the solution. pathway that I create, which means obviously I would have had to broadcast that solution pathway. If you have the problem, but you get on a call with me, you don't really know how I solve it because I've not really been clear in my content and everything else that I've put online, then you don't really know very much about me. You just know that I have a solution. So a client is ready if they know my problem and my solution pathway. They are ready if they can afford to work with me, and not only that, they are willing to invest in themselves. They're ready if they have, if they've already exhausted other avenues, or at least they've tried several other avenues. And that's an important factor of my client's readiness to work with me. I don't really enjoy working with people for whom I'm the very first port of call. Like they've never invested in themselves with anybody else before, and then they come to me. My approach is so opposite to what most people teach, that it will create a lot of doubt in people who haven't already gone off and tried those other approaches and still not gotten them to work. Okay, so a client is ready to work with me if they have already been involved in coaching or mentorship with somebody else, or at least signed up for one of those online kind of modular programs. Maybe a little bit like this, but even if it doesn't have a coach involved in it, maybe it might be a kind of a Frank Kern 8-week kind of video course, for example, or a Jeff Walker funnel course, and maybe they've been through it and it still hasn't worked for them. Now they're kind of ready to come to me because they've tried the common approach and it still hasn't worked, and now they're ready for me, right? They're not ready. So the flip side, they don't have the money. They haven't been through some of my materials to make sure that they are completely resonant with me and my approach. They've never read any of my stuff. They've not been part of my community. They've not kind of taken my online diagnostic. They're not ready. Okay, and there's a lot more besides. If your client would do homework in prep for working with you, what would it be? And this is how we kind of move them to that readiness. So when I say homework, I mean the things that they actually have to do. There are several ways to pay you, and money is the last way. Money is the very, very last hurdle, like to know that a client is ready to work with you when they actually write the check or make the bank transfer. But there are payments that I always suggest people take in advance of working with you, and that is that somebody has engaged in something, they've done some work, whether that be kind of in my personal training studio, we had a 4-video series that guided people through the philosophy of the studio, like why I set the studio up the way it was set up, how our philosophy was different, how our approaches were different, and so on and so forth. Likewise, they would be sent a copy of the Elimination Diet in advance, the book that I wrote, and that would, they'd be kind of encouraged to read that before they come to the first consultation, and all of this. What do they need to have in place in advance to working with you, and ideally in advance to even meeting with you? Like, hey, you can go, I'm willing to jump on a call with you next week, a strategy call or whatever, or an exploration call, but I need you to take my online diagnostic first and tell me what your score was, or I need you to watch these videos first, or I need you to read these articles first, or whatever it happens to be. And likewise, it might be that you want them to fill in quite a detailed WUFU form, like an online application form, and so on and so forth. Right? What do you want them to do? For people that come to the live GuRu, for example, one of the kind of the steps is that they have to fill in an application form. But in order to even get to the application form, they have to click a PayPal button, pay £100 in order to get access to the application form. It's refundable if they're not selected, but it's just another thing that I put in place to make sure that I don't have to wade through 300 application forms and then find that actually only 3 people actually are ready, willing, and able to come to GuRu. Okay, so what would they do in preparation for working with you, and why? What are your explanations for each of those things? What would they need to have in place to work with you? So what people would have to have in place to work with me. So if you were coming to Live GuRu, you'd obviously have to have the money to come. You'd have to have a passport in place, and that might seem obvious, but one of the last attendees at the Live GuRu didn't, and so I wouldn't take his application until he went and got a US passport. What else would they need to have in place? So there's the time, like coming to Live GuRu, for example, it takes 2 weeks out of your life. It's a 10-day event, but traveling there, traveling home, the kind of the interim aspects, it's about 2 weeks that you need to be willing to take off. If you love the idea of GuRu, but you're just like, there's no way I'm leaving work for 2 weeks, so just all my family for 2 weeks, then any other conversation is a moot point. Likewise, coming into the online GuRu, right? The online GuRu, you're going to need about an hour and a half per day to engage with the material. If you're saying, well, or you may kind of lump that together, and certain times in the week you might put, you might do 4 or 5 hours of something, and that's cool. But if on average you can't give an hour and a half a day to this work, then it's pointless signing up for GuRu. You might as well just keep your money. Okay, so what would they need to have in place in order to work with you, and why? What would be the perfect time to work with you, and why? So the perfect time to work with me is actually, obviously you have the problem and you have like all the, let's take all that bit as a given, but the perfect time to work with me is shortly after having had let's call it a failure, having had a negative response from coaching with someone else. Okay, and the reason that's the perfect time to work with me is because you've probably just experienced yourself doing all the hustle, hard work, kind of content creation, spamming your lists and all that kind of stuff, and still not gotten what you wanted from it. And so it's a much easier conversation to me to have with somebody like that and say, look, here's why I take the opposite approach. Here's why I slow you down. Here's why I do deeper work on you and your life and all the stuff that you've covered in this program, right? Here's why I do that. And if somebody has just had that experience, of hustle and getting nowhere with it, they're more likely to be open to what I'm doing. Likewise, at my studios, like most of our programs were aimed at people who had already been with a trainer. They'd already, we weren't the first personal trainer they worked with. They worked with other trainers, and their then experience of the other trainers were hustle, hard work, harder, faster, more. And so, and they still didn't get what they wanted, or they got it and they couldn't keep the result. And so we were able to explain, look, we take a different approach. We're slower. We do a much more assessment-based process. It's much more personalized. We operate in these ways, and here's why. And people were much more open to it because they'd kind of come to us at the perfect time. Okay. The other perfect times, obviously, and from a personal training perspective, were when people had something really important to get ready for, like their wedding or their daughter's wedding or whatever it happened to be, and they wanted to look great and all that kind of stuff, right? But think about that. When would be the perfect time to work with you, and why? What would be the worst time to work with you, and why? Well, obviously, so sometimes it's the worst time to work with me would be, obviously, again, if you don't have the money or the time or the effort or ready to make the effort. If you're too deep in the dark, that'd be a bad time. Like if your last experiences have smashed you in the face and you're not feeling good about them, and you're already pessimistic, that'd be a really bad time to work with me if it's gone too far. Be a bad time to work with me if you actually have no experience as a coach, or I'm the very first business mentor that you're working at, you're reaching out to work with. That might be a really bad time too. Okay, when is too soon? When is too late? They're very similar to the last two questions, but just a reframe it. It's too late to come and work with me if you're still, or if you're already working with another coach. If you're saying, well, I'm working with this coach here, over there, but I really like what you're doing too. Well, it's too late. It's just too late. It's too soon to work with me if you've never had a client and if you've kind of, you've got no track record of making money of your own, for example. It's too soon to work with me. Like if you've only ever made money for a job and you're saying, I want to leave that job and I want to branch out on my own, it's just too soon. It's too soon. Like you haven't had enough struggles and challenges in order for you to really believe in the direction that I'm taking things. Okay, so why this is important? It's all really, really important, because ultimately one of the best ways to be assured of high quality clients is to broadcast explicitly who they are and what they need to do in order to qualify to work with you. It's a bit like the red velvet rope philosophy, outside of nightclubs and stuff. That kind of when people find it harder to do something, when you make it more exclusive, and not just remember, we're not just making things exclusive for exclusivity's sake. We're making it a little bit more exclusive to make sure that both the clients and we get the experience that we really, really want to have. Okay, they get a massive move toward their dream life, and you get a massive move toward your dream life, right? And so the best way to do that is to put up that velvet rope and say, look, there are things you have to do. Like I would love to have a conversation with you to see if I'm a good fit, but there are things that you have to do, and that changes the ball game, and it moves you into a different echelon. You're not the person sat around all week either doing free calls or being stood up by half of your free calls. You're the person who is kind of saying, okay, yeah, you know, thanks for reaching out to me. That's cool. Go and watch this. Go and fill that in. Go and do some of these things. Here's why this is important. Go, like you've created a pathway to you, as opposed to a sort of like a a teleportation machine where they can be in whatever part of their life they're in and just kind of suddenly appear on your doorstep and say, okay, sort me out. Okay, and actually that slower approach generally tends to create a much higher quality of client. Okay, so that's what you're being asked to do here. Simple, powerful, and will be an absolute game changer as we move into the next phase of the marketing. That's it. Get to it.